what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, we are now at the 6-week out mark from the 2025 Arnold Classic in Columbus, Ohio. And we got a bunch of updates starting to pour in from some of these top guys. The first one I want to talk about is the latest update from Shaun Clarida. Now, Shaun, obviously a former 212 Mr. Olympia, top 2 in the world still in 212, but he is doing the open category at the 2025 Arnold Classic. And this latest physique update that we got from Shaun today, where he says he's weighing 190 pounds, I think, honestly, he looks incredible here. He looks bigger. He looks fuller. His chest looks a lot fuller in particular. And I kind of wonder if I've been underestimating him in this lineup. He looks really impressive here. Now, obviously, he looked really impressive in Prague, which was the last open show that he did. I felt like maybe he got a little bit not overlooked because obviously that lineup was crazy, but I feel like people were more focused on watching Martin and Chris Bumstead in that lineup. But Shaun did look a lot better, at least to me, in Prague than he looked at the Olympia. And keep in mind, he's no longer working with Matt Jansen, so Prague was his first show working with Stefan, boss of Outlaw. So very short amount of time working with Stefan for Prague. But now it's been quite some time that he's been working with boss of Outlaw to prepare for this Arnold Classic. And I feel like you are seeing some genuine growth here from Shaun. He looks bigger. He looks fuller. And it may not sound like it because 190 pounds in open bodybuilding sounds kind of small. But for Shaun, that's actually pretty heavy. And even though it might seem that Shaun would be at a tremendous disadvantage in open, he's done pretty decent the times that he has done open shows, despite the massive weight difference that's going to be between him and some of these other guys. The last time that he did the Open Arnold Classic, he was 5th place, and he was behind Big Ramy in 4th, Andrew Jack in 3rd, Nick Walker in 2nd, and Samson Dowda in 1st. And he actually placed ahead of Akeem Williams, who was 6th at that 2023 Arnold in Open. So he's done pretty well in the past. I mean, a top 5 placing in a lineup like that, again, Big Ramy, Andrew Jack, Nick Walker, Samson Dowda, it's a pretty crazy lineup to be a 212 guy at a significant weight disadvantage, still first call out right there in the mix. So this year, is this lineup, do you guys think this lineup is stronger or weaker than that 2023 lineup? And maybe Shaun even has a shot at placing higher than 5th here. If we look back at this lineup for this year, there's some newcomers like Carlos Thomas Jr., you've got Justin Rodriguez, Patrick Moore, William Bonac, John De La Rosa, Shaun, of course, Brandon Curry, who we're going to talk about in a second, Andrew Jack, Derek, Sampson, Akeem, and James Hollingshead. Really looking at this latest update from Shaun and looking at this lineup, I think Shaun definitely has a shot at placing in the top 5 again, but potentially placing even higher than that. I think he looks really impressive and really full in this latest update. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Now, next up in the news, we did get some brand new 6-week out physique updates from Carlos Thomas Jr., who has kind of been the talk of the bodybuilding world going into the Arnold as one of the underdogs, one of the guys that has the potential to kind of shock the world. People have been very impressed by a lot of the updates that he's been posting recently. And today was no exception to that. We got a front double bicep, a front lat spread, an abs and thighs, and then kind of a variation of the abs and thighs. And I still feel like all the things that I've said about Carlos up until this point, looking at this physique update, I would still say all the same things. The things that impress me are the same. Crazy round and full, crazy arms, crazy legs, crazy small waist and taper for a guy that has legs that big. And my criticisms would remain the same. I would like to see deeper lines, deeper cuts in his quads. I mean, obviously he's got these huge round quads. They're insane. I would like to see deeper separation there that we're still not quite seeing, which maybe we should be at 6 weeks out. And the same thing as I said before about the midsection, while his taper is crazy, he's got a crazy small waist, you look at some of these shots, it still has kind of that, I guess, cloudy look to the midsection where you can't fully see the outline of all his abs, and especially in that lower ab area. Now, that one abs and thighs looks pretty good. And again, he still has 6 weeks, but the reason why I bring that up is, again, because of the fact that he had that gastrointestinal issue, which was why he missed some shows in 2024. So I've kind of got that in the back of my mind as maybe that's something he's still struggling with. And I would think if it was going to be visible on his physique at all, it would probably be in the midsection. And maybe that's what we're seeing here. And hopefully that doesn't hinder him at the actual competition. But I kind of feel like it could be that. And the other thing still remains the same. We still haven't seen his back, which I know a lot of people are very eager to see the improvements that he's made to his back. But still, what we are seeing from him, even though this sounded pretty critical, you guys know how I feel. I think Carlos Thomas Jr. is one of the most genetically gifted guys right now, and I want to see him do really well. I like rooting for the underdog, so he's one of the guys that I'm really rooting for at the Arnold. But I would like to see some of those changes. You know, especially in the abs and thighs, when I'm talking about those criticisms, the separation in the legs, the detail in the lower abs in particular. That shot for Carlos, you know, having legs as crazy as he has, the abs and thighs, I would think even at 6 weeks out, you'd see some pretty deep cuts in quads that big. And while you see a good amount of vascularity, they just, I don't know how to describe it. You just don't really see that deep separation. And you guys can let me know in the comments below if you agree with that assessment or not. But that's just kind of what I notice when I look at his legs. Like, yeah, they're big and crazy, but I feel like they're just missing something. And the cuts just don't seem to be there. I mean, there are visible cuts. You guys know what I'm saying. Now, next up in the news, this one's a pretty big story for today because we haven't really seen much of anything from Brandon Curry going into this Arnold Classic. And he is one of the few former Mr. Olympia champions competing in this Arnold lineup. So he is, on paper, he should be one of the favorites here for sure. And we got essentially a full physique update from him at 6 weeks out, a full posing video, lengthy, hits almost every mandatory pose. And a lot of people were really waiting to see this because Brandon, like I said, should be on paper one of the favorites here. There's only a few Mr. Olympias in here, including Samson Dowda, Derek Lunsford, Shaun Clarida, and Brandon. Now, I've already pointed out in previous videos that at the Olympia, Brandon was 9th. Akeem Williams was just behind him in 10th place, but William Bonac placed ahead of him, Andrew Jacks placed ahead of him, Derek Lunsford placed ahead of him, and Samson Dowda placed ahead of him. Which is significant considering the fact that that's 4 guys in this lineup that the last time Brandon faced them, they beat him. So that would put Brandon, if you're going off the past placing, in 5th place at best here at the Arnold if he looks the same as he did at the Olympia. And looking at this update from Brandon, I kind of felt the opposite of what I said about Shaun Clarida. I felt Shaun Clarida looked bigger and fuller than usual. To me, this update from Brandon, while he still looked impressive, he looked downsized to me. He looked smaller to me, and you could kind of, I feel like you could kind of see the age on Brandon's physique here. And again, I'm not saying he looked bad in this update. To me, he looked a little downsized. And Brandon did announce that he's doing this prep differently than previous preps. So he's actually prepping here domestically in the States, and he's not going over to Kuwait for this prep like he does for the Olympia. He's staying here to spend time with his family. So that is a pretty significant switch up in how he's prepping for this show. Kuwait has kind of been, you know, the Oxygen Gym team has kind of been like his secret weapon going into the Olympia. And I can't even remember which prep would have been his last prep that he didn't prep over there. So I feel like if you're looking at this update and interpreting it as a downsized version of Brandon, that's probably an accurate assessment because we are probably expecting to see a different version of Brandon because his prep is pretty drastically different. And don't let the gray beard fool you. He's only 42, which realistically is not that old in bodybuilding. It's up there, but it's not like he's done. And I saw some people commenting and saying it's time for him to retire. It's possible that he will. I could totally see that being within the realm of possibility. That Olympia placing is not what Brandon was used to. Brandon was almost outside of the top 10 at this Olympia. So not only was he not in the conversation for a top 6 placing, a top 3 placing, conversation for the win, he was almost completely out of the conversation, which is not what Brandon is used to when it comes to placings. And it's kind of been a pretty steady decline as far as his Olympia placings go. From when Brandon won the Olympia to now, they've kind of just slowly been slipping in that direction. And Brandon is a smart guy. I'm sure he recognizes that. So I don't think it's totally unlikely that he might retire after the Arnold. And I could see why maybe he would want to do the Arnold as his last show. Not only is he a former Mr. Olympia champ, he's a former Arnold Classic champion too, and he's done countless Arnold. But I guess that's my question for you guys when it comes to Brandon Curry. How do you think he's going to place? How do you think he looks in this update, for one? Do you agree that he looks downsized? What do you think about the possibility of retirement? And then how do you think he's going to place at this Arnold Classic? And do you think it could possibly be his final show? Now, next up in the news, we did get another recent physique update from none other than Martin Fitzwater. And we're 16 weeks out from the Pittsburgh Pro, where we're going to be treated to the Martin versus Nick rematch. And this is kind of the first glimpse that we've gotten from Martin, maybe from this prep specifically at all, this most muscular shot. And Martin has been one of the most talked about guys of 2024 as far as his potential, as far as the statement that he made at his Olympia debut, taking a top 4 placing, as far as beating Chris Bumstead, one of very few people to ever do that, even though it was in an open bodybuilding show. And I'm telling you guys, man, I have a feeling that this Pittsburgh Pro, it's going to be a crazy lineup. We already know some of the names, but I feel like more are going to jump in. Again, I want to reiterate that first place is a 6-figure payday, which is not very common in professional bodybuilding. And that's why you're already starting to see, the Martin Fitzwaters and Nick Walkers of the world jumping into this lineup. And then also guys like Nathan Diasha planning on traveling over to do this show. And frankly, I think those are really the two biggest names that are missing from the Arnold. Those are the two names that I would really like to see at the Arnold, both Nick and Martin jumping in that lineup. So we get, essentially in Pittsburgh, we get what we don't get to see, but I know a lot of us want to see at the Arnold this year. I think we all would have liked to see the Nick and Martin rematch at the Arnold, and also a Nick and Samson rematch at the Arnold. So the Pittsburgh show seems to be what we get in lieu of that, and I think it's going to be very exciting. And speaking of this Pittsburgh Pro lineup, I saw this recent physique update from Hunter Labrada, where he looks really impressive. He looks like he's in really good shape. He looks like he would be prepping for a show. And to my knowledge, he hasn't confirmed yet which, and if any, show he's doing in the near future. But to me, he looks like he's incredible. He's in incredible shape. This doesn't look like, off-season holiday Hunter. And I kind of wonder if one of these earlier shows that we've been talking about, maybe not Pittsburgh, but maybe Detroit, although he has done the Pittsburgh Pro guest posing, I think, a couple times now, so maybe he would actually compete in the open show, although he hasn't confirmed it yet. I thought this was a really poignant and impressive update from Hunter. And it makes me wonder how soon Hunter's next show is looming on the horizon. Is it going to be potentially Pittsburgh? And just a reminder, Hunter was top 6 again at the Olympia this year, so he's still top 6, one of the best in the world. He would certainly be a threat to that $100,000 prize money at that Pittsburgh Pro if he decided to do it. Now, next up in the news, we got another update from Regan Grimes, this time at 302+ pounds at 17 weeks out from the New York Pro. And he's also working with Stefan, boss of Outlaw. And I'm very curious, I don't know if anybody does like a formal Coach of the Year award, but the sheer number of guys that Stefan, boss of Outlaw, is coaching, And the success that he's had in such a short amount of time with so many guys, he's got to be in the running for Coach of the Year at least 2025. He's got like everybody on his roster. And if all of them do well and win shows, I mean, he's got to be up there as one of the best coaches around right now. Just like the volume perspective, I don't know how he manages to divide his time amongst all these guys. I mean, just off the top of my head, Regan, Bonac, Nathan, Martin Fitzwater, Shaun Clarida, Brett Wilkin, Wesley Vissers. These are just to name a few. I'm sure I'm missing like half a dozen big names there, but I don't know how he manages to do it. But he's working with Regan, and it's just pretty impressive. The guy, not even from just a coaching standpoint, but a time management standpoint, the guy has insane ability to manage his time effectively and efficiently. But what do you guys expect to see? What do you guys anticipate for Regan Grimes' return to the stage now that you're seeing him at 302 pounds? How do you think he's going to do in New York? Now, we also got a recent update from Bonac just a couple days ago, so about 6 weeks out from the 2025 Arnold Classic, showing off the wheels. Again, another guy that's working with Boss of Outlaw and has had a lot of success in doing so. And Bonac is one of the guys that I'm really considering to be kind of a shoo-in for that top 6 at the Arnold this year. I think he's certainly in that conversation. And I feel like just in comparison to Carlos Thomas Jr., this is a little bit more like par for the course of what I would expect to see at 6 weeks out in terms of leg separation. Like, obviously, Bonac's not crazy peeled here, but I mean, you can see the teardrop. You can see some pretty deep separation in the quads. It's not like crazy, but this is a little bit more the level of separation I would want to see on the quads of Carlos Thomas Jr. Like I said, his quads are crazy huge, but this is a little bit more what I would expect at 6 weeks out. And it didn't feel like Carlos's legs were quite there in terms of this type of separation for 6 weeks out. And I do think that's one thing that Bonac does very well, is he's such a seasoned veteran of a pro that I feel like his physique is a very good benchmark for X amount of weeks out. Whatever type of condition Bonac is in, he's done this so many times, and he's been very consistent. I think his physique is a good benchmark for what 6 weeks should look like, 3 weeks should look like, 9 weeks should look like, because he's just done this over and over and over again, and he's very consistent. But let me know what you guys think about William Bonac's physique here. I'm actually anticipating that he's going to be top 5 at the Arnold. And the final story that I've got for you guys today, the latest physique update from Mike Sommerfeld. This was also 2 days ago, so a little bit over 6 weeks out. This particular one showing off his insane taper, but I'm going to censor it a little bit because the white underwear was not the move here. But I mean, if you want to talk about an insane lat to waist ratio, then Mike Sommerfeld is your guy. I mean, this is pretty crazy. This is a ridiculous taper. And it's entirely possible that you could be looking at, this could be the physique, this could be the taper of your next Arnold Classic Physique champion. This could be the guy. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. That's going to wrap it up for the video today, guys. I hope you did, in fact, enjoy it. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell notification icon if you have not already. And as always, I love you guys, appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power, signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at NickStrengthPower. My Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power. My secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.